Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a peek at Saturday's Grade 1 Dubai World Cup. $12 million is the purse. We're at Meydan going a mile and a quarter. Before we take a look at the field, remember that Timeform USPPs are now free in DRFTVs. This is a great opportunity to try out Timeform US because you're going to get expanded commentary on all these international runners for the Dubai World Cup races on Saturday. Try them for free in the DRFTVs. Just click on the Timeform US tab. Here's the field for the Dubai World Cup. You'll note that the program numbers and the post positions are different. The number 1 Algiers will break from post position 13. We're going to see a rematch between the number 9 Panthalassa, the number 4 Country Grammar. They ran 1-2 in the Saudi Cup last time out, and Country Grammar is back to defend his Dubai World Cup crown.
Yeah, more than anything else, it's the distance. It feels like, Dan, that really works to his advantage here. I guess he ran fine in the Saudi Cup last time. It's a little short for him. This added a couple of furlongs really helps.
You make a very good point, Mike, about this being a completely different ball game than the Saudi Cup. The Saudi Cup is a one-turn mile and an eighth over a surface that is a little bit faster, it seems, than the Meydan main track. At Meydan, the Dubai World Cup is a two-turn mile and a quarter. Country Grammar just seems to appreciate more and more ground. That being said, there's a very intriguing performer that's already done well in Dubai, and his name is Algiers. He's the best handicap horse over there, and we're going to take a look at his most recent race, a super impressive performance in the Al Maktoum Challenge Round 2. He won the first 2 legs of this challenge series, and Mikey was wide all the way around the track. He brushed to the lead, and just look at this acceleration when he's asked to go.
Yeah, the best thing about this race, he's really impressive winning. And the best thing about this race, then, is that he did it over a longer distance. I think the real question in front of him as they led up to this Dubai World Cup, and I don't think they were even sure they were going to run here, was just whether he could get a distance of ground. And boy, did he get it last time. He was wide around the track that day, and he just blasted that field.
One of the horses that was just left in his wake was Salute the Soldier, who, of course, came back to win the 3rd leg of the Al Maktoum Challenge. Ben Doog, the number 2, we just saw run second in that race. He came back to then run second behind Salute the Soldier. He's 50-1 on the morning line. He's a solid horse, but after you watch that last race, it's hard to take him against Algiers, even at this big price.
Yeah, it's hard to take him against Algiers or even against maybe Salute the Soldier, who defeated him last time, Dan, in round number 3. I mean, he didn't run poorly in either of those races, but he just was no match for either one of those horses. And it's hard. They're not even, there's more competition for him to deal with in this race even. And he's just going to have to find a way to run a little bit of a better race. He's in actually good form right now, Dan. He's just pretty hard to take.
We've seen Japanese-trained horses just dominate on the world stage in recent years, whether it be at the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, the Saudi Cup, past Dubai World Cup evenings, Hong Kong international races. Panthalassa, of course, a Japanese-trained horse. The number 3 Cafe Pharaoh is going to come in off a 3rd-place effort in the Saudi Cup. He got a great ride that day, Mike. He broke from the outside post, but the jock was able to taper his way in and save ground entering the turn. And then he was able to finish evenly for 3rd in between horses. He might be the best dirt miler in Japan, but this distance is a bit of a question mark.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think you have to be concerned about with him. I agree with you. I thought he ran pretty well in the Saudi Cup last time with a really good trip and ride. But it was a good performance too. His overall dirt form is really good. He's a real question mark stretching out to an additional distance in this race, Dan.
Country Grammar parlayed a runner-up effort in the 2022 Saudi Cup into glory in the Dubai World Cup last year, and he's going to try to repeat the pattern. He ran just fine in the Saudi Cup, considering that the pace just didn't seem to come back. He was really the only horse making up any sort of late ground. He was being really hard ridden on the turn by Frankie Dettori, but he did show his class and run on for 2nd, and a 2-turn mile and a quarter plays to his strengths.
Yeah, that's the big thing for him. I mean, he actually got pretty close at the end of the Saudi Cup last time. Maybe the margin of defeat there's a little deceiving. I mean, it never really looked like he was going to win, but he really did start gaining some ground in the late stages. More distance helps him. Listen, he's no superstar, Dan, but he's really good. He's really consistent. He always shows up, and really, the longer they go, the better for him.
He'll have to work out a trip from post position 14. He breaks right next door to Algiers. The number 5 on your program is Crown Pride, who's going to be breaking from post position 12. And you remember Crown Pride. He won the UAE Derby last year, showed up in the Kentucky Derby, and was part of a big blazing pace. Now, last time out, he was 5th in the Saudi Cup. Do you think this horse is going to try to show speed again? Because we know that's Pantallassa's style, but it might be Crown Pride's preferred way of going.
Yeah, I think it is his preferred way to go. And do they have anything to lose really by not, coming out of there running and just trying to make the lead? Maybe he won't make the lead, Dan. I don't think that's a deal breaker for him. He's run fine in each of his last 3 or 4 starts without actually making the front, and he ran fine last time in the Saudi Cup. Another horse who I feel like maybe a mile and a quarter is a little bit of a question for him. And even in that the Group 1 in Japan, 2 starts back, he ran well that day, but I don't think he ran as well as the winner, June Light Bolt.
The number 6 is Emblem Road, and he pulled off one of the shockers in international racing in 2022 when he upset Country Grammar to win the $20 million Saudi Cup. Now, he couldn't pull off a double. He finished behind several of these last time out. Did you see an excuse that race? A wide trip, compromised by any sort of situation, or did he just run off form?
Yeah, he didn't break very well from the gate in that race. He got away last. He was, pretty well back in a race, as you've already pointed out. Then it's not like the pace was falling apart at the end. Country Grammar made up some ground. Nobody else really did. So maybe he had some things working against him in that race. He's another one. I kind of feel like the distance has to be a little bit of a question for him. He's good up to 9 furlongs. Is he quite as good going 10?
Of the Japanese trained horses, you could make the argument that maybe the number 7, Geoglyph, has the most upside of them all. And he ran okay last time out, certainly in the Saudi Cup to finish 3rd. He was kind of on a hard chase going after the gate to wire winner on the turn. He failed to change leads in the stretch, and he just blew 3rd to Cafe Pharaoh in the end. All in all, considering it was his first start on dirt, it was a good effort. He did win the Japanese 2,000 guineas on turf at this distance last year.
Yeah, we'll see. He certainly handled dirt fine last time. Overall, I thought he got a pretty good trip in that race, Dan, and had every chance. Wasn't quite good enough. Got out finished at the end for some of the leftovers there. He ran fine in there. He didn't do anything that would make me want to bet him back in the Dubai World Cup.
I don't want to hold the number 8, June Light Bolt's last running line against him. He was one of those closers that might have been compromised by a lack of pace. He may not want a mile and an eighth. He showed off an explosive kick to win the Grade 1 Champions Cup 2 starts back in Japan. He got a very good trip that day, but once he got out, he fired.
Yeah, I really liked that win from him 2 starts back. He was in traffic for a long way in there. It was very, very late in the game before he came clear. And then he came with a good finish to get it done. I don't know what happened last time. He just really couldn't get a position. He broke from the gate fine, couldn't hold a position up close. He wound up way in the back, and he just didn't really kick on at all through the stretch. Overall, I thought he was pretty disappointing last time, Dan. We'll see if he can rebound with a better race here, which I certainly think is possible. Ryan Moore sticks.
Here's the Saudi Cup winner, the number 9, Panthalassa, and we're going to watch his big victory. He drew the rail in the Saudi Cup, and his game, his speed. He went right to the front. He played Catch Me If You Can. You see the horse just to his outside is Geoglyph. In between horses, eventually going to get 3rd is Cafe Pharaoh. Wide outside with a run into 2nd is Country Grammar, but Panthalassa just keeps finding more.
Yeah, he stays on really well here. He's holding off these pursuers all the way down to the line. That's Country Grammar coming really late. Again, it didn't ever look like he was going to win. He did get up for 2nd. This horse did, if nothing else, he showed that he could handle dirt last time. He made the lead pretty easily in that race, Dan, after breaking from the rail. And I don't want to say the pace was slow. I don't think it was slow, but he was pretty loose and in charge of that pace the entire way around. The trip is supposed to be a little different here. He breaks from the far outside. There's some other speed to his inside. We'll see if he pulls a similar trip.
That's a very, very good point. And I think the extra distance might work against him. You could argue that 9 is his best. He won the dead heated for the win in the Grade 1 Dubai turf back in 2022 on grass, but he showed he could handle dirt, but it's a lot different. Going 2 turns, breaking from the far outside with his speed, and a 1-turn mile and an eighth breaking from the rail as he did last time out. The number 10 is Remorse, who's going to be breaking from the inside post. He was 6th behind Country Grammar in last year's World Cup. He was beaten by Algiers in the Al Maktoum Challenge. He was beaten by Panthalassa in the Saudi Cup. So he's got a lot to find. He'll be a giant price.
Yeah, he's just a really big price if you want to take a shot with him here. Based on his overall form, it just feels like this is a really, really tough race for him. It's a big purse though to try to get lucky.
Salute the Soldier has been a solid horse for a long, long time. And we're going to watch his most recent race. He's coming into this Dubai World Cup in very good form. He was no match for Algiers in the second leg of the Al Maktoum Challenge. This is the third leg. There's no Algiers, and Salute the Soldier makes hay.
Yeah, he got a good trip in this race. He just sort of sat 3 wide, tracking the pace. That's Bendu, who's right to his inside. They kind of get pulled similar trips in this race, Dan. They sort of turn it into a little bit of a match race late. Salute the Soldier, always getting it done in there. Personally, I didn't think it was the most impressive win in the world, but he did what he had to do. And he's, as opposed to some of the others we've already talked about, 1.25 miles is fine for him.
1.25 miles is fine for him. Meydan is fine for him. Is he this kind of horse? He was 5th in last year's Dubai World Cup. Super Corinto has some class questions to answer as well. He is actually based in North America, and we're going to watch his most recent effort at Gulfstream Park. Now, this is not the strongest race in the world. It's a little allowance race. The horse on the lead was loose, but Super Corinto at least stayed within range and is able to drive him down late. This horse was a Group 1 winner in Chile, going 1 mile and 3/8 earlier in his career.
Yeah, I guess that suggests that the distance will be okay for him. He's just a horse who, just based on his 2 most recent starts up at Gulfstream Park, it feels like he's really got his work cut out for him here.
The number 13 is T.O. Keynes, and this is one of the better handicap horses in Japan. He won at 1.25 miles, 3 starts back, and last time out he finished a solid second. He is a horse that usually shows up with his good race. We've seen the Japanese dominate, and I have a feeling at around between 10 and 15 to 1, he's got a chance if he can pull the right trip.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of price you'll be able to get on him. It feels like maybe you'll get a decent one. And he's a pretty good horse. I remember going into the Saudi Cup last year, Dan. I thought he was a really interesting horse in that race. And he totally bombed. I mean, he was terrible in that race. The only time they left Japan with him. We'll see if he ships better this time, I guess. Personally, I didn't really see his excuses either 2 back in the Grade 1 Champions Cup or that most recent start when he lost. So that makes me wary of wanting to take him in here, but I know he's pretty good.
And one of the horses that defeated him last time out's right up next. The number 14, Ushba Tesoro, is a horse that's really improved. And he ran a fast race last time out in that Kawasaki Kinen. He's won 5 of his last 6 starts. He's perfect at 1.25 miles. How could they have been so wrong about this horse? He made his first 30 starts or so on turf. He's a dirt monster.
Yeah, he's really, really good on dirt, and he beat T.O. Keynes fair and square last time in what felt like a pretty tall test for this horse. I mean, I can't knock his recent form, Dan. I guess we'll find out even more about him here, facing a pretty tough field, going 1.25 miles, but I can't knock his form.
Sort of the reverse situation with Ushba Tesoro is the number 15. That is Villa Azul, who is a good horse on dirt to begin his career. I'm sure while they were running this horse on dirt in Japan, they never thought he would end up winning the Japan Cup. Well, he did. Last time out, he was in against some of the best horses in Japan on the turf. It's interesting that they're running him here. He still, to me, has to prove that the Japan Cup isn't a fluke, but he got very good towards the end of last year.
He did get good. He got good on a different surface. However, overall, his dirt form, which he can obviously handle dirt, but his dirt form doesn't seem like it's quite as good.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Dubai World Cup. I'm going to try to fade Country Grammar in here a little bit. I think he's going to be a very short price in the American pools. I do expect him to run his usual good race. Algiers is going to be your pick. I want to use this horse because he was so impressive, and this is a home court advantage.
Yeah, I think those things are both things that you want to take into consideration, Dan. We'll see. I guess this is a much bigger test for him. He was super impressive winning his last 2 starts, though.
Panthalassa, the 9, likely to take a lot of the Japanese money. Cafe Pharaoh, the 3, Geoglyph, the 7. I'm curious to see if maybe they could turn the tables. I'm very concerned about the distance with Cafe Pharaoh. More of a miler, but he has won at 1 mile and 3/16. I do think Geoglyph can continue to move forward. His last race was promising, first on dirt. 148.13 for Mike, 3791 for me. We'll see if Country Grammar can make it 2 consecutive victories in the prestigious Dubai World Cup.